We are going to get started. Thank you for being here on this chilly Friday morning. I want to welcome all of our Zoom guests. We're very happy to have you join us today. My name is Emily Acker, and I serve as CEO at Hillside. We are so glad you're taking time this morning to join us for this very important conversation. This is an issue that impacts just about all of us. And so we're really happy to have an incredible array of expertise here with us. So, first and foremost, I want to tell you a little bit about Hillside. Hillside provides mental health treatment for young people and their families. We do that through residential treatment on this campus. We have a day treatment program also on this campus. And then we have a variety of community-based programs that help serve young people and their families in their community and sometimes in their homes. So we're really happy to have the services that we do and are helping children and families who are really navigating some complex emotional and behavioral health challenges. This conversation came about because we have so many families that are struggling with how to guide their children and role model in a world that is very different than the way we grew up, the way many parents grew up. And so those challenges mean that we're striving to figure things out. We want the best for our kids, and we understand that while technology brings a lot of creativity, it brings education, it brings connectivity, it also presents brand new challenges. And we've got to figure out a way to make sure we're addressing the fact that technology can impact our emotional development, it can impact our relationships, it can impact our mental health, and it impacts our physical health. So with all of that, this conversation is so vital, and we will continue to be learning as things change and progress and shift, just like it always does. So with that, I want to introduce to you our moderator, Paige Rowe. Paige is the founder of Rowe Consulting. She is a communications strategist who is working with nonprofits and public initiatives to do incredibly impressive work. Paige understands what it's like to parent in the world today because she's an active parent of a precious young one. And Paige has been an incredible friend to Hillside, so we're really thrilled to have you. Time to introduce our. Let me get my notes. So, first we have Taylor Welch. She is the Senior Program Manager of Hillside's Virtual Intensive Outpatient Program. We have Richard Hicks, CEO and President of Inspire EDU. We have Senator Sally Harrell, a Georgia senator representing the 40th District. We have Kendra Choice, founder and CEO of Young Gifted Techie. And we have Joe Peacock, a tech professional with more than 30 years of experience designing and developing internet platforms. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paige, and we will begin our very interesting conversation today.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you all for making time to be here with our panelists. Sorry for little feedback. I think we're still figuring that out. And welcome to our Zoom members as well. We won't forget you in our Q&A. Today we will have a moderated panel discussion, and we will reserve some time for questions. We've got quite a lot to get to, but I wanted to start with a little bit of grounding for us. This is a no judgment zone. There are a lot of different opinions on this panel, and you're going to hear that come out today. Some people are very forward-thinking and positive about the future of technology and social media as it relates to children, And some of our panelists maybe have a lot of concerns about that. You may find yourself in the middle, and that's okay. But whatever you do, I hope that you'll come back from this conversation with practical strategies, tips, and a better understanding of what's out there and how you can protect your children and yourselves. So with that, I wanted to ask a question of the audience today. Raise your hand if you've ever heard this phrase. Mom, Dad, can I have your phone? That's interesting. Not all our panelists have had that question, but almost everyone in the room has raised their hand. It's out there, it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. Today we're going to talk about the digital world and what you should do after you hear that question. So, Emily mentioned that the world that many of us grew up in is very different from the world today. So I wanted to start out with that question for our panelists, and we'll go right down the line from Taylor all the way to Joe. When you think about kids growing up today, what feels most different about their social world and their daily lives?
I think the thing that I have seen the most from clients is that internet friends and friends are not any different for them. Internet friends have the exact same quality to them as any other in-person friend, and when parents try to talk about them as if they're a different category, they get really lost of why they'd consider them that way.
Good point.
Thank you all for having me today. It's great to be able to share the stage with such wonderful individuals. And when I think about this, I think about the distractions. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things out there that can kind of take you in different places. Kids are faced with that versus back in the previously, before all this technology enhanced. I think there was a conscious effort to get you outside and get you to the basketball court or get you on a trail somewhere so you can see nature. I think kids have a little bit more distractions that take them on different routes, and that's something we have to make sure that we're conscious of.
So I remember when I was growing up, my mom, we weren't allowed to have a telephone in our bedroom. We had one phone, and it was in the middle of the house, and my mom always said it was because she wanted to kind of keep tabs on us, and she did. Whereas when I was raising my kids were like the guinea pig generation. They were the ones who everybody got smartphones like in late middle school, so it was all brand new, and you couldn't know what they were doing. And I mean, maybe I had this memory come back because I'm in the setting, but soon after that, I learned that they were dealing with a friend that was feeling suicidal, and these young people were dealing with that all on their own. No adult even knew it. That's different.
Good morning. Happy to be here with everyone today. I want to underscore with what Richard said. It is an inability to be bored. I see that a lot. You know, growing up, think about when we would just go outside and sit on the green box outside and figure out, okay, well, do we walk down to the creek? Do we throw rocks? What do we do? Do we knock on someone's door and run? Like, what are those things? And that is non-existent. I see that with my kids who are 17 and 12 years old today. It's just a pure lack of creativity if you do not have a device.
They took my answers. Now, it's all of those things, I think, coalesce into this velocity that we never had to face, ever. Something happened at 12, you found out about it at 6 p.m. on the news, 5 if you were in Central, or the next day on the newspaper. Now it's instantaneous, right here, right now. And what that does, to Richard's point, is the distraction. You must react. We are in a very react-heavy world these days, and that reaction response, like my dad used to instill in me all the time, is like respond, don't react. You don't have that luxury these days anymore. And so when a child in their school is being cyberbullied, or messages are being spread, or I don't know, weird wars pop up out of nowhere that we have no explanation for, now we have to have answers because it's in the conversation. And before you can formulate one, there's something else, and it never stops, ever.
I I think those are some really good assessments from a wide variety of perspectives. I don't know if you will hear me, right? Yeah, there we go. Hopefully some of these are resonating with you. The fact that there's always something big happening in the world or your personal world that requires a reaction. The fact kids maybe aren't as comfortable being bored or having time that's just open to them, where they don't have to fill it with any particular... Sorry about that. Is it the game? Mike. Thank you, Joe. Is that better? Yes, thank you. I think it's better. Well, anyway, but we also heard about the lack of maybe being outside and valuing in real life conversations, the fact that kids can have unobserved or situations in their lives that parents may have no idea is going on. So all of these things taken together place a lot of pressure on children that maybe developmentally they're not ready to have, emotionally they may not be ready to have, but also there are other pressures that these things, that these kinds of situations create for children. And I wondered if we could start with Taylor on that. What are some of the pressures that you see children really facing because of the digital world and their presence online?
Yeah, I think Joe brought up a really good point of kids are having to have really adult conversations and having to make really quick decisions on things that they don't have all the information on. So they'll watch a 2-minute Instagram, maybe 2-minute Instagram, and immediately decide, I need to have an opinion on this thing, and I need to say it as if I'm an adult. And I need to give it like all of my energy. I also see a lot of kids that are preoccupied with everything that's happening outside of their community. Like I have kids that are now worried about what is happening in Iran and Iraq. I have kids that are worried about what's happening in California. And there's also a lot of big concerns in their own home that they can't even have time to think about because they're also trying to handle all of these adult conversations. And like, we don't know what their algorithm looks like. So I'm saying like, this can be as little as like 8 and 9-year-olds are seeing things that they aren't expected to see. And we don't know what they're always looking at and trying to have decisions on.
That's a really good point, is that, parents are much less able to curate what their children are seeing every day. I mean, we might remember Nick at Night, right? And so after a certain time of day, old TV shows would come on around 9 o'clock. And those were fine for us to watch, but a lot of other, cable news networks had more adult themes on, and children kind of didn't have access to that as much. But now, things that maybe would have been more adult-focused can be seen at any time of day. And I'm wondering, Joe, I know you've spent your entire career developing online platforms, and for those who remember FARC.com, you worked for FARC when it started, and if you don't remember what that is, Joe can explain it. But could you tell me, where are kids spending most of their time online now, in your opinion, and what does that actually look like from a parental perspective?
I don't know. I'm not a kid, and that's the hard part. What I understand is that social media, and when I say social media, there's 2 social medias. There's social, and it happens on your device, and it's technical and it's media. And then there's the Facebooks, the X, the whatever, the corporate social media. And so if we capitalize social media and call that, capital S, capital C, they're in social media, they're not there. They don't like it because we're there, right? Like no one wants to go where their parents hang out. Like you don't see kids gathering at Golden Corral at 5 o'clock to have a cup of coffee and chill out, right? They're kids, and whatever we do is uncool by default until way later. What I'm understanding is that groups are coming together, and Taylor, you should correct me on this if I'm wrong, but they're coalescing more into group chats, WhatsApp or their own group chats, or their small, much more insular groups, and discussing things, that way. Entire grades have a chat in various schools. Things are becoming much more segmented, but it doesn't really stop the rest of the internet from infiltrating as things go along, and that doesn't mean they aren't participating elsewhere as well. I do know that 4chan, is anyone familiar with the term 4chan? Does anyone know what that is? All right, if you don't, become aware. It's very important that you understand not just that place, but the places like it, because that's about the entry level for a teenage, especially boys, to go in and start venting their testosterone online and saying wild things and seeing what they can get away with and push the envelope a little bit here and there. Most of it meant to be harmless. It's totally not, and you know that because we've seen and heard the result. But that's my understanding, is that essentially if it's a big corporate media site, the kids are avoiding it en masse. Like, they don't want any part of it. So when it comes to the monitoring of things, it's not like you can ask your sister or your cousin or somebody who's 2 links removed to go and spy on your child on Facebook. You don't get that luxury anymore. It's on their device, it's in their hands. But think about that, when we were kids, we had our secrets too, right? To Paige's point, I wasn't awake, you know, according to my parents, before 10 p.m., but I certainly knew what was on Skinamax. And I found out because I was a curious mind, and I was a young boy who had free access to time. And that boredom that we talked about earlier, I don't think that's truly gone away. I just think the hole gets filled really quickly. But the second that hole starts to become a little bit wider, they go looking, and they will find stuff. And I think that, to me, the strategy is a strategy, not an answer. I don't have one. I don't have the ability to go, I know precisely what my 7-year-old is looking at all times. I simply have the trust in my ability as a firewall administrator at my house to block the really nasty stuff and hope that I taught him to not go looking for anything else, right? I hope that answered the question.
It's a great point. I mean, the other thing to remember, and we'll come back to this, is, teens are going through a lot of hormonal and emotional changes that algorithms can take advantage of. And we'll talk about ways in a little bit that, we can help keep them safer from that. But it's important to remember that we might have grown up in a world where we had feedback from our friends, from our family, from the things that we did, but now we also have engineered, programs that reinforce feelings that they don't really have maybe our best interest always in mind. But on the flip side of that, Kendra.
Can I underscore one thing really quick? I just want to put some names around where kids are going. I run a youth tech organization where I empower youth from 3rd grade through college with real world tech skills. Use the tech, don't let the tech use you. That's my motto, okay? So where are they? Discord. Yeah. Where are they? Twitch. Where are they? YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, okay? DuckDuckGo is a browser that they all use. So if your child has DuckDuckGo on their device, monitor that, okay? All right, so those are at a high level where they are. Okay.
Kendra, my question was for you, so keep the microphone close. But there's a flip side to this, in the sense that you work with a lot of underserved communities, you and Richard both, helping improve digital literacy and helping children to see that there are career options and opportunities that may not have been previously available thanks to tech. I wonder if you could talk about that side. I mean, you said a great story in our pre-panel about how there's some children who may not be looking, it used to be that a lot of children looked at sports as their way out of a disadvantaged environment, and now there's social media too. Could you speak to that?
Absolutely. Really quick, tech saved my life. I'm born and raised Southwest Atlanta. By all accounts, based off of the zip code that I was developing, I should not be where I am today. 20-year technologist. Because of tech, I'm able to go get my nails, I'm able to go to therapy every other week like I treat my nails, last 10 years consistently. Because of tech, I've traveled to 30 plus countries around the world. So what I did with my organization was stood up a space where we can go in and empower these kids with tech skills, but in doing that, what we learned was technology, social media is used as a platform for entrepreneurship as well. Okay, so let's think about this. You have 15-year-old young ladies who are doing hair and nails. They go live on TikTok, $500 hits their account, in addition to the earnings that they make from their skill set, right? So there is a way where, as parents, we have to engage with them, make it psychologically a safe space so they can understand that we care about them, but we also see the future. The future is not just be great at sports and go out here and get a job. It is literally, if you go get tech skills, you can make 6 figures and you can change the trajectory of generations after you, right? And not only that, you can become a streamer, a Twitch streamer. Kai Cenat, I think he made $30 million last year.
Could you say that name again?
His name is Kai Cenat. And so for those that don't know, this is a young man on Twitch, on YouTube, who basically grew up in the Bronx, by all accounts, impoverished, and he was able to turn his personality on, play video games, put the camera in front of himself, and give his opinions. He has the world showing up to his streaming events. Mariah Carey, right? You're talking from Kim Kardashian, you're talking LeBron James. And so at any moment, there can be 700 million people watching his stream.
That's incredible. I didn't.
So here's the thought. You know, we're not new to it. We got to be true to it. And we have to understand, well, what problems are you trying to solve, child, as you get on these platforms? Are you trying to fit in? Are you trying to go, grow, and ultimately glow with a career? What exactly are you trying to solve for? And then that is your linchpin to understanding how you help them solve and give them the resources they need.
Hold on, Joe, because we got to move down the line. We're going to come back. But, you know, there is a conversation to be had also about the lifetime ramifications of being a young person who is putting themselves online, and their children and their parents may or may not know about it, and things they do as children can impact them later, or even just having all of that open to the world and the safety of that. And so I wondered if Senator Harrell would speak to some of the work she's been doing in the legislature on a study committee about youth and online mental health. You can say it.
Well, the study committee met in the fall. It's the Senate Study Committee, and it has a really long name, and it's so long that I just decided to nickname the committee Kids Online Safety Committee, because that's what we focused on. And I wrote the resolution to create the study committee because I was so concerned, like, I guess it's been 10 years ago when my kids got phones, and I did see a change in their personalities, and I tried to share that concern, and the adults around me thought I was just freaking myself out. And the kids need privacy, and I just hit brick walls. And so I've been waiting and waiting to do something about this. And honestly, I've been waiting for millennials to have children because y'all didn't grow up with this, and I knew you were going to get hit with it, and I knew you were going to be scared. And so I've just been waiting so that we could come together and have the numbers to fight back. So we had the study committee. I wrote the study committee to have co-chairs, a co-chair from the majority party and a co-chair from the minority party, so we could approach this in a bipartisan way so it wouldn't get politicized. And we have been able to do that so far. This issue has not been politicized. And so what came out of that committee was a realization that social media with a capital S, corporate social media, doesn't have to look like what it looks like now. The reason it looks like what it looks like now and it has this draw to engagement that we even call addictive is because the corporate companies realized that the more engaging they made the product, the more their profits went up because they could sell the data they collected to these marketing brokers. And so it has gotten, since my kids were new on it, it has gotten more and more addictive so that kids are spending, at least 5 hours a day on it, which means that they're not doing other things that they need to develop into healthy adults. So, but I didn't want to go so far after hearing all this testimony. I didn't want to go so far that we ban social media. I mean, they say that this moment with social media is like the tobacco moment, where we kicked all the smokers out of the restaurants. It is like that. We are at one of those moments, but there's nothing good about tobacco. Whereas with social media, as you said, is something good about it. So what we need to do is envision a different social media. But in order to do that, we have to fight the corporate interests, and that is the challenge. We recommended several ways to go forward. I am here to say to parents that I know that it feels hopeless, that you feel you might feel your kids slipping away from you, and there's nothing you can do. You try to go into the parental controls and you try to lock it down, and they find ways around it, or you can't figure out which settings to go into. I'm telling you, it's designed to be difficult on purpose because they want that engagement and they want those dollars. But our committee did have specific recommendations for legislation. We're working on getting that passed. I tapped into a national network of people who used to work for big tech, who learned all the secrets and are now working for nonprofit organizations that want to change social media, that want to re-envision it and want to fight the big corporate interests. And so that has given us here in Georgia a tremendous resource. One of those things was Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, which when I read it was like, oh, thank God, somebody finally understands and has put it into words, and that really lit a fire in this country for change. And I will say that, like last week, Jonathan Haidt's organization, which was very helpful to my study committee, released what he calls a childhood index. And it's a first of its kind ranking of all 50 states on how well they are doing with their supporting tech policy to support healthy childhoods. And the two top states were New York and Utah, blue state, red state. And those were the two top states, but then there were 6 what they called rising stars, and I will say Georgia was one of them.
Congratulations.
And one of the components that went into us being a rising star was the roadmap that the study committee published after our work. We got busy this session. The bills that threatened corporate interests were the bills that didn't get votes this session, but there was one bill that moved forward that was put forward by the majority leader because the Republican caucus made this one of their priorities, and that bill has to do with companion chatbots, which if you don't know what that is, you need to know what it is because your kids are talking to companion chatbots. And they've been unleashed, and you never know what the companion chatbot is going to say. Mm-hmm. So it's particularly dangerous. So we do have a bill move forward that puts some guardrails and protections in regards to companion chatbots with kids. And so that's a good start. And it has remained a bipartisan issue. And I see us moving forward in the next 2 or 3 years to make some massive changes.
Thank you, Senator Harrell, for that incredible work. Joe, you're chomping at the bit. What you got to say?
I'm never not chomping at the bit. There's a number of things that came up that all kind of knit together, and I want to speak plainly because I know the audience here today is when it comes to the entrepreneurial side of social media or the internet in general, one of the first things you can do is disambiguate, right? When the telephone was invented, the telephone was the telephone as a large media, and then as we got older, there was 1-800 numbers and 1-900 numbers, remember those? And you could call your grandma, or you could call time and weather, or you could call a chat line, and things had to be disambiguated, right? The internet is now so large, it can't just be the internet. Social media is now no longer social media. It's easy to call it those things. But one of the things that these technologies are so adept at with the interruptions and the alerts and is validation addiction is a very real problem. And I would argue that a lot of people, I personally have a history with suicide and other things that have, brought people to these kinds of places. And one of the places I used to go to seek validation, to be told I was worth something, to be told that I was valuable, was the internet, right? Chat groups and at large. And the larger the platform and the more I could use my creativity to interrupt it, the more validated I felt until it went away. And then I had to do it again and again and again. And something like $500 is very addictive when you're 16. It's awesome. It's an easy avenue to go and make some money. There are dangerous, dangerous, dangerous places that can lead if you don't have the underpinnings of what to look for. And things like gambling, you can do, don't get me started on Kalshi and other
We gotta move on.
I'm going to move on. What I'm saying is that the understanding is not the internet bad, block everything, no good. It's teach kids what to look for. Who's looking to take advantage of you on Roblox? Who's going to try and use that $500 to gain access to your DMs and start talking to you directly, right? That's important stuff to keep in mind.
Thank you. And I think that's really wise, Joe, is teaching kids the behaviors that even in real life would be dangerous to them. Now, Richard, you focus your work with your charity, Inspired EDU, on digital literacy for children and families. And you have talked at length in our pre-planning meeting about alternatives. And so I know we've heard a lot of scary things, and some of the answers are knowing more about those platforms, but there are also options like touch and grass. And I wondered if you could share some of that more practical insight that you have as, with the families that you work with.
Thank you. And families, I have a farm in Milledgeville, so I always touch the grass. So I always talk about that. I love to talk about being there with nature. And parenting in this age is different. Parents, you got challenges that your parents didn't have to face. And we're having to navigate through these things. The one thing I always tell parents is don't get overwhelmed with having to find all the right answers in this technology. But the one thing you do know that you're going to have to do is parent. You know what you have to do when it comes to making sure that you create tech-free zones. Mental health is a thing now that we have to make sure we're mindful of. Screen time health. Our parents would have actually been a little bit tougher, or adult learning partner would have been tougher in making sure that we went outside. Now it's our challenge. We are facing a new challenge of having to parent children in an age where technology and distractions are all over. And the good thing about it is that we have solutions in place. We recognize that we know technology, and we need to be mindful of educating ourselves even further as we're trying to teach them these things. And I love what Senator Harrell said about internet safety and all of those sort of things. We have to be mindful of what's happening on the internet because it is a new community now. And our children this express lane has been created for them to grow up fast. They're getting stuff that they shouldn't even get. And it's up to us to make sure that we put guardrails on it. We can't look for other avenues to kind of curtail the things that we know we have to do. And when we talk to our families, we're like, look, you need to be mindful of making sure you control your environment. Technology is not driving this child all the time. It has to turn that device on. So what you have to do is make sure you're mindful of what they're going to. The different platforms, like Kendra mentioned, they're readily available for you to be knowledgeable to them as well. And that helps them to kind of feel like they're empowered. Parents really have to know that their children is being exposed to a lot. And I think that we should be continuing to educate ourselves on what's being said. Even being mindful, like sitting down for a minute to, have with our children. Don't text, what are you doing? Come in here and talk to me, Come here and say, hey, look, what's going on in your world? What you doing? Hey, let's take a walk. Those things help kids to feel like technology is not the only way they're going to have to get attention.
I think
and we have to make sure we're embodying that. And I always encourage parents, take that time out to create these tech-free zones, create these sort of avenues, these gaps. Our parents did with us. They didn't let us watch TV all the time. They didn't let us go eat all the time. Sometimes that's not something that needs to happen, and we want to be responsible around that too.
That's wonderful advice. I think that's an important through line. You've heard a lot of things like 4chan, Discord, Roblox, which I'm not sure I'm pronouncing correctly. You know, a lot of terms that are going to start feeling overwhelming. I mean, it's overwhelming for me to think about all the things that I need to know what they are and what 6-7 means. But really, you can't replace, I know, you can't replace human connection. And the more that you build that connection in real life with your child, like you're saying, the more likely it is that they will come to you. And we know that you can protect your children by talking to them about your feelings. A lot of studies have brought that forward, that one of the best ways we can prevent suicide in children is by making sure that they have adults that they can trust and talk to. I think that's a pretty accurate statistic, Taylor. And I wondered if you would talk a little bit about what should parents look for as potential warning signs that they need to connect in real life with their children.
Before anyone gets too nervous, I'm about to rattle off a lot of things that are just teenage behaviors overall. So I want you to look at duration and intensity, because all of the things I'm going to say are things that your teenager is probably doing, but doesn't immediately mean that they need to go touch grass today. The first one is sleep disturbances. We see most kids are not able to unwind from technology and are just not getting enough sleep. That's the one I would say is probably the most prevalent. And with adults, I can assume some of y'all were probably scrolling farther than you meant to, and this morning was a little bit harder. We also see a lot of isolation. We also see increased mood disturbances. So if you try and take the tablet away from them and they have a very large output from it, that probably means they've had a little bit too much of that dopamine cycle and that they're having a little bit too much of a tough time getting off of it.
What should a parent's first response be if they're seeing any of these symptoms in their children?
Talk to your kid, ask some questions. At any point, if you ever talk to me, my statement is always going to be curious. I want some of you, if you don't know what some of the words we've talked about is, go download Discord and look at it. Play with it. If you don't know what Roblox was, download it. I joke about the fact that the first time I heard a slur was on Call of Duty. Now your kids are hearing it on Roblox. That's where they're finding out information that you don't know about. So go find things out about it. Go find out who your kid's best friend is. Is that best friend at school or is it online? Go find out what their favorite thing to do in the afternoon is, and is it a YouTuber that they like to watch? Go watch that YouTuber. Find out things about your kids.
And there's incidentally a lot of resources and tools online that can help children with mental health difficulties. And one thing you mentioned, Taylor, in our pre-plan was that children are much more comfortable in a virtual therapy setting than adults are. Could you speak to the online resources, tools that are available in the program that you run?
Yeah, so I run our virtual IOP program. I have had the ability to watch a lot of kids really enjoy it and a lot of parents be uncomfortable with it, which has been really fun to get to see kids that are kind of struggling in some mental health spaces get to feel a little bit empowered. It's the place that they get to know a little bit more than their parents do, and they get to be a little bit of an expert. Kids these days grew up with a phone in their hand. They are not concerned about being on Zoom or any of these things. So I think for me in particular, our program is looking at kids that are struggling with school avoidance, that are struggling with suicidality, that are struggling with self-harm urges, some of these like more intense behavior sets that aren't needing to look at higher levels of care. So they're starting to be on a path that we don't want them to be on, and we want to make sure we can kind of specifically get to like rural areas and things like that. That's one of the big pros of virtual, is being able to hit anyone in America with this anyone in Georgia with this information.
And thank you for that. And, you know, we're going to open it up to questions in just a minute, but I wanted to go down the line very briefly and ask each of you one thing that a parent could do right now, in your opinion, that could help ensure a more safe and online environment for them. One thing. Taylor, you want me to start with Joe?
Yes. He always has an answer.
I have more than one thing, but one thing. It's parenting in the digital age, right? It's parenting in technology, and you're surrounded by it. You do not surrender your right or responsibility as a parent, period. You are the parent. I want to relate to my sons. I want them to love me and like me. One is unconditional. The other one depends on what I just said and what I took away, right? And if at whatever point they are just, absolutely unwilling, it's your job as a parent to make sure that they understand why. But more than that, that they don't engage in what's hurting them, right? And I don't think that the answer is just deprivation. There can also be re-education, redirection. If your kids are big into games and they're in some toxic worlds like Call of Duty, sit down with them and play It Takes Two. Great game, awesome stuff. You might even enjoy it. And if you don't dig that, have them teach you how Minecraft works. Minecraft is a great substitute for Roblox, where there is unfettered access to people. Just relate to them, understand them, but do not surrender your position as parent, is my unlicensed, uneducated, unvetted opinion.
So really that's two things, but we'll let it slide. The first was don't surrender your ability as a parent to really get in there with your child and understand what's going on with them and make sure they understand the things in the world that could hurt them. But the other is actually get into their world with them and enjoy it together in the ways that are safe. Right, Kendra?
I completely agree with you, Joe. So I'm going to underscore everything he said. Get to know.
Can you say that again, Kendra? We shorted out.
Get to know your child. It is my responsibility as the CEO founder of Young Gifted Techie to get to know the child. We have to know their interests to be able to connect with them. It is not by default that I have on Jordan 1s.
I don't even know what that is, but okay. I know
Sneakers.
It's shoes.
Get to know your child. Get to know every single game that they're playing. Get to know their friends. Get in there and play those games. Okay, my child loves Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, and I don't even want to say the other stuff he loves. I've heard my child scream obscenities on a game. You know what I did? I started Young Gifted Techie every Friday game night, where it is a virtual Discord where I get online with kids and we play video games together. It is a monitored, safe space, monitored by an adult. You cannot use bad language. You cannot bully anyone, call them a scrub, corny, or anything. All I'm saying is you have to get to know your kids. I grew up in an environment where my mother said, "I'm not your little friend." I don't say that to my children. I am not their friends, but I'm getting to know them like a friend. So I think that it's incumbent upon us to know those things and to engage, go eat with them, get in their world, learn about their world, because at that point, then you can understand again, what problems do we need to solve, because not every kid is created equal.
I love that. So play with your kid online and get to know their friends. That seems like a good advice just in general as a parent, not just in the digital world. Sally, what's your one thing? So
I'm going to respond to this question from a policy perspective, which I think is why I'm on this panel. So I'll let you, do the. I have a clinical background of a master of social work, so clinical background in social work. But I gave up the clinical stuff because I was attracted to this idea of, instead of changing one life at a time, change a law and change a system. And so that's what I do. So what my advice is these corporations that are fighting everything we're trying to do to help you, they have so much money. I mean, it's unimaginable how much money they have. So, for instance, I filed Senate Bill 495, which is it's called an age-appropriate design code. It's the bill that says to the companies, you can't use addictive features with children, and you have to protect their privacy. And I went around, I'm a Democrat, so I went around and I approached all my Republican colleagues, and we have 56 senators, and I got 40 signatures on the bill before I filed it, and 25 of them were Republicans, and there are only 33 Republicans. So they know the right thing to do. But that bill never got a vote, probably because there was money exchanged with the Republican leadership. I'm going to look at the disclosures in April to see if that's true. But so my advice to you is get to know your elected representatives and tell them your stories. Tell them that you want this legislation, because if they hear from you and they know you're watching, then they're not going to let the money control their vote. So get to know your U.S. people, but also get to know your state people and share your experience and make sure they are accountable for doing what you need them to do.
Thank you. Richard.
I love exactly what Joe and Kendra, what you mentioned about, getting to know your child.
Richard, could you put your mic a little closer? Thank you.
My advice to you all would be to don't be afraid of parenting in a digital age. We've come a long way to start developing fear of parenting or letting technology do it for us. Don't be afraid of it. If you have to go and, put some guardrails on there for your children, you're not being a bad parent. You're just being a parent that wants your child to be successful, because eventually they're going to be parents. And we want them to basically pass on what we've learned the right way. So don't be afraid to parent in a digital age when it comes to making sure they have a fighting chance of passing on good wisdom to your grandchildren. So that's my advice I always give.
Always be a parent first. Love it. Taylor.
Thank you for giving me a second to think. The thing I think that is most important is being able to kind of check yourself on this. See how much time you spend on your phone. See how much time you spend on these things. We want you to be a role model, and also use your emotion words with your kids. I'm finding I'm really frustrated with this, blah, 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 blah. I'm finding that I'm really bored, so I want to be on my phone. You want to be able to model to kids why you're using technology, and if it makes sense that you're using technology to deal with that emotion, so they will start to tie emotions to why they're also using technology.
That is excellent advice. We now have just a few moments for questions. We got some on Zoom, or is it you, Miguel, who has somebody on Zoom? Go ahead, Miguel. I'll repeat the question for the folks online. Amy on Zoom asks, what is the panel's advice on boundaries and monitoring devices on technology? Let's keep them fast answers so we can get to as many questions as possible.
My answer is, for as long as I'm paying for it, I set the rules. You want to go do your own thing, go earn your own money, get your own line, get your own device, and then you're on. But you're still on my firewall. You're still on my router. You're still on my internet. It's so easy to just flip the switch.
Still on my air conditioning. Yeah, there you go.
I will also say, I'll go into the therapy world. A boundary is a thing that you can do by yourself.
Yeah.
So, and a rule is what you tell your kid to do. So you can tell them you have to turn it in at 10. If they don't turn it in at 10, you as a parent need a boundary of what you're going to do. If you don't turn it on at 10, I turn off the internet. That's something you have control over. So there are rules and there are boundaries. Know the difference of those.
Ooh, deep cut. Kendra. I'm good. Oh, Joe answered. All right, well, good. Sally or Richard?
I would say monitoring they need to know. And in fact, I have that in my design bill, that no one can monitor a child without the child knowing, even a parent.
That's reasonable. Richard?
Joe, Kendra, Taylor, they said it.
They all said it? Really? All right. Well, let's move on to other questions in the room or on Zoom. In the room, I think there were a few. Yes, sir, in the back, blue shirt. You. Yeah, you.
Yes, that is Senate Bill 540, and it has already passed the Senate. It passed unanimously. It has gone over to the House, and so it's in the Technology Committee in the House, and that's chaired by Representative Todd Jones. And so if you're going to contact anybody, it would be either the members of that committee or your personal representative, because I do think it will come to the House for a vote. Thank you.
Other questions? Lady with the red and the plaid. Yep.
Where do you see the through-line behaviors of adults and kids?
The question was, where do you see the through-line behaviors between adults and kids with online use? Oh, here we go, Joe.
Boredom. You scroll, they scroll. The other thing is, I'm also noticing that what my boys see me do, they want to go do, but they want to go do it on their own. So when I'm sitting at the table and I'm scrolling, it's iPad, right? If they see me building a model, it's like, I want to go build a model, that's cool. But the through line behavior that I see, not just from my kids, but all kids, is the simple fact that we live in a place where places you can go where you don't spend money are so rare. So that need to get your attention to sell you the thing is vital. Touching grass, massively important. Let them see you do it. Let them see you go outside and garden, pick up some knitting needles. I don't know, but do something else.
Richard, did you have anything to add?
I can echo Joe. That's where you want to be able to make sure that you're mimicking the behavior you want your child to mimic. And they're always watching. They're tape recorders. They're going to go in there and say anything. You can tell them something, they're going to go and repeat it. So what you want to do is make sure that they're mimicking that behavior of putting it down. Hey, I'm going to put my phone over here and leave it alone. I know it's ringing off the hook, but none of these people are important that I need to call back. Nothing's burning. You're at home. So let's go out here and let's go do some things. You know, that helps them to kind of see that what's important to me is you. And it goes a long way. We wanted our folks to be connected with us and wanted to spend some time. If we create that through road and let them know that, then the technology, it'll be important where they can jobs and things will be put in its right category. But if we show that that phone call is more important to them, we can't be surprised when technology becomes the lead.
That reminds me of that song, Cat's Cradle, is it? Joe, you had, and Kendra, you had?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Sure? Yeah. Yep. You all got it.
The only thing I would say is that you were once a kid, you're not now. And the same is going to be true for them. And I can't tell you the number of words that come out of my mouth that are my dad's. Mm-hmm. And at the time I thought they were the dumbest old man crap. And now, like, I'm there. I'm not only there, like, I see the value in it. So remember, you're just in a moment. You're just in a moment that you are a parent who's fully responsible for the time and whatever else. When that goes past that, you're hoping you laid enough groundwork that when they turn 18 in a day, they start figuring this stuff out, or 25 or 40. I'm 49, I'm almost 50, I'm just now figuring out some stuff. It doesn't stop. Your job is not to shepherd them throughout all of creation. It's to set the groundwork, right? And I would love to know your opinion, because I'm just talking, but you're a pro.
I appreciate your talking.
Go ahead.
You're good.
I would also say there's that term influencer, right? And so being able to balance who's influencing them, like who do they look at and they're intrigued by, and then understand, well, what's intriguing you about this individual. And I think back when we were younger, like, I love me some Beyonce, right? And I'm sorry, the only time I heard her really talk was on MTV and on, different views back in the day, because that's the only time. We didn't have social media back then, right? But now, when something drops, you can get any artist to just get online and influence your kid to decision immediately, which you spoke about a little bit earlier. So I say all that to say, going back to that, we don't want to be their friends, but what we want them to see is, are we being influenced properly as well? Because they know who we watch. My kids know I love Beyonce, right? And they also know what Beyonce stands for. So I think it's just monitoring who influences us, monitoring who influences them, and going back, period, to why. Why are you interested in this? And then again, you can work to solve that problem.
Would you believe we're almost out of time? I want to give our clinician, Taylor, a moment to speak to two things, if I could. One is, we have talked about suicide and suicidality today, and I wondered if you would mention any resources for anyone watching or listening who has had feelings come up or may need some assistance.
Yeah, so we have 988, which is going to be the main number that you're going to use if you need that. Is the text 7272 or 7474? 7474 is a texting for suicidality and self-harm that is necessary, because some kids will text better than they will call, and then being able to reach out to any professionals that your child may be involved in.
And I want to leave our discussion today with a little bit of hope. We've talked a lot about things you need to be aware of, things you can do as a parent, warning signs in your children. We've also talked about sort of what can be done at the state level to help assist parents and children in keeping themselves safe. But as a clinician, could you talk a little bit about what there is to be hopeful about in, when you've been treating children? Kids are the same generation after generation. It's the technology that changes, but there are opportunities for healing, right?
Yeah. Your kids are fun. I get to laugh a lot at my job. Your kids are creative. They are inspiring. They have access to so much information, and they are busting at the seams. Find out what's cool about your kid, because they are some of the coolest, most inspirational people I've ever met.
And I think they're worth our time. Thank you very much for your time today. Just as a reminder, we have on the tables, and for those watching online, a fundraiser for Hillside, Bloom with Hillside, the spring plant sale, Saturday, April 18th from 9 to 1 p.m. here at Hillside. You can shop Veggie Starts, annuals and perennials, grown by Hillside clients. Create a flower crown or terrarium in their treehouse, and get tips from master gardeners at the Garden Advice Tent. So if you enjoyed the conversation today, I hope you will consider supporting Hillside in whatever way makes sense to you, and most especially consider coming to this event. I want to thank Hillside for hosting us today, Gabriella and team for planning, and all our wonderful panelists. You've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. And I hope and I know that you've left us all with a little bit of inspiration and practical advice. So thank you very much.